You may go to your television for an escape from the real world, but some of your favorite TV shows like Squid Game and Baby Reindeer hide a dark truth. These shocking real-life events inspired popular Netflix shows and reflect the horrible scenarios that plagued people's lives. Squid Game. Alleged images from the real Squid Game have recently gone viral, revealing the show may find its footing in some tragic true events, though creator Hwang Dong-hyuk has never confirmed that he was directly inspired by these events. One of the photos shows a number of people in blue training suits with masks, and it is of an infamous concentration camp in South Korea from the 1980s, whose name translates to Brother's Home, but it was also frequently referred to as Korea's Auschwitz. The origins of the pictures are uncertain. They resemble those collected by Brothers Home Welfare Center Incident Countermeasures Committee. The events that transpired at the Brothers Home are horrific enough to see parallels with Squid Game. In 2020, BBC conducted an interview with a survivor from the infamous concentration camp, Han Jong-sun, who was taken in at 8 years old in 1984. Many of the prisoners were children, and they were held captive for up to 3 years until it was shut down in 1987, after 30 inmates escaped and exposed its horrors to the rest of the world. After the Korean War in the 1950s, South Korea was prospering in the 1980s, but with the upcoming international attention of the 1986 Asian Games and the 1988 Seoul Olympics, they wanted to ensure they were in top shape. There was a letter sent between the president and the prime minister that revealed the inciting words of their nation's so-called social purification. The letter said to crack down on begging and take protective measures for vagrants. This led to a series of welfare centers being opened where they would take lower class, and homeless people were taken for a year to be reformed. Most of the prisoners, including Jong-sun, were there for far longer than that time limit, and reformation was not something that took place behind the walls of the facility. The harsh reality of the brothers' home was that they were physically and psychologically tortured throughout their time there. Jong-sun claimed that the facility was hell. To this day, nobody has been held accountable for the horrors that occurred within the walls of the brothers' home. Targeting lower-class citizens and putting them through horrible scenarios is where the Squid Game parallels come in. Especially the idea of using children's games is seemingly a reflection of the fact that children were held at these concentration camps. The show's creator Dong-hyuk told Korea Times that he blends real-life elements to these wildly fictional games to increase the sense of believability. Gi-hun's backstory, in particular, highlights the show's reflections of the real world, as it includes a defining incident that was based on a true event. His poverty is due to being laid off by Dragon Motors after, which is the fictional counterpart of the real layoffs made in 2009 at Sangyong Motor Company, where workers participated in a sit-in strike that lasted 77 days, one of the longest in South Korea's industrial history. If that wasn't bad enough, the conditions of the set of the real-life game show spin-off to Squid Game were far from perfect. The show got quite a name for itself after reports from the set claimed there had been various injuries and harsh filming conditions, including freezing temperatures. The conditions got so bad some contestants claimed they were suffering from hypothermia and nerve damage because of how cold it was. After conducting a safety inspection, Netflix confirmed that 3 players had been in need of medical attention. This has led many to question the ethical issues entailed with shows like these in putting people through intense and hazardous scenarios for entertainment purposes. Stranger Things, one of Netflix's most popular television shows to date, with 4 seasons and another on the way. But what you might not know is the real-life events it's inspired by. The creators of the show, the Duffer Brothers, allegedly took inspiration from the Montauk Project, which was supposedly a military program that conducted mind control experiments on children, as well as time travel-related tests. It is rumored the show's original title was proposed as Montauk, but was eventually changed. A man named Preston Nichols is an electrical engineer who claims to have worked on the project, even publishing a book in 1992 titled The Montauk Project: Experiments in Time. He claimed that the project's aim was to control people via a computer program, although there is no concrete evidence to support his claims. House of Cards. House of Cards is widely considered to be the show that began Netflix's rise to the forefront of the streaming world. But all came crashing down in 2017, after the show's star found himself faced with numerous assault and harassment accusations. In the wake of this news, members of the crew came out explaining what time on set with Spacey was really like. Many described a toxic work environment, as well as witnessing predatory behavior from Spacey, ranging from non-consensual touching to making intimate comments about young male colleagues. One of the show's production assistants even claims to have been assaulted by Spacey, stating he cornered him in his trailer. It's been said that his behavior was brushed over as play fighting, but his actions eventually caught up with him and resulted in him having to pay millions of dollars in reparations. Griselda. Griselda focuses on the story of Colombian drug trafficker Griselda Blanco. It faced backlash due to the violent nature of the content, as well as a lawsuit from Blanco's real-life son, Michael Corleone. Leon Blanco. Michael sued Netflix and the show's star, Sofia Vergara, for using his wife and his wife's likeness without his permission. He claimed that he was excluded from aiding with the show's development, in spite of him sharing personal material with them. The lawsuit sought $50,000 in damages, but the court dismissed it with prejudice. The show's co-creator simply stated that these kinds of lawsuits come with the territory, as he had previously dealt with similar lawsuits from the Escobar family after his work on Narcos. Baby Reindeer. Baby Reindeer had audiences glued to their TV screens, and it unravels Scottish comedian Richard Gadd's real-life experience with a stalker in his 20s. Baby Reindeer began as a one-man show at the Edinburgh Fringe and stars Gadd as a fictionalized version of himself named Donnie Dunn, who is stalked by a woman named Martha. Gadd tells that over 4.5 years, the woman sent him 41,071 emails, 350 hours worth of voicemails, 744 tweets, 46 Facebook messages, 106 pages of letters, and a variety of weird gifts. She supposedly obsessively stalked Gadd outside of his home, workplace, and on stage in comedy clubs. She even went as far as harassing his loved ones, including his parents and a trans woman he started dating. When Gadd eventually went to the police, he got told off for harassing them about his own harassment. He stated that the process of pressing charges was a hilarious nightmare that took years. The real woman who stalked Richard Gadd is not named Martha, as he said he was keeping those details private. He also claims to have never revealed her real name to the media, and that he changed key facts about her for the Netflix show, feeling as though the stalker wouldn't even recognize it as herself, but that wasn't the case at all. After the Netflix show was released, Gadd urged his followers to stop speculating about who the real Martha could be, but it didn't seem to change anything. Gadd's co-star on the show, Jessica Gunning, who portrays Martha, has said that she felt Netflix went to great lengths to protect the identities of the real people involved, and that attempting to figure out their identities was not the point of the show. In an unexpected turn, a woman claiming to be the person Martha is based on revealed herself to the world, and agreed to do an interview to clear up her side of the story. The woman's name is Fiona Harvey, and she had her fair share of things to say about what she thinks really happened.
He interrupted a conversation. There was another barman there. He said, "Oh, you're Scottish," and basically commandeered the conversation.
She at first states that she never sent him anything, but quickly changes her answer.
I don't think I sent him anything.
You never sent him anything?
No. I think there may have been a couple of emails exchanging, but that was it. Just jokey banter emails.
She insists that she never sent him any messages on any social media platforms, but ultimately says that there may have been some a few years back.
This is
Exactly.
completely incorrect.
So you're denying sending anything to him?
There may have been a couple of emails.
Text messages?
No.
Facebook messages?
No.
Did you tweet him?
I may have done years and years ago.
She also doesn't recall stalking Gadd at his home.
There are lots of scenes where Martha is sitting outside his house all day. Did you ever do that?
No.
Or contacting his family.
Did you ever contact Richard Gadd's parents?
No.
Furthering her side of the story, she claims there was a lot of innuendo being thrown around between the two.
This, I think, was a holy arms joke about curtains and a lot of sexual innuendo.
Even stating that at one point Gadd dropped the veil entirely and asked her directly.
He asked me to sleep with him. He said, "Would I like my curtains fixed?" And I laughed, and he said, "That's a euphemism. Do you want me to come home with you?" And I said, "I've got a boyfriend."
Which she believes she firmly turned down.
I gave him the brush off, big time, I think.
Adding insult to Gadd's profession in doing so.
I don't fancy little boys without jobs.
In the show, after Martha leaves a threatening voicemail on Donnie's phone, she is arrested and charged with 3 counts of stalking and harassment. She pleads guilty and receives a 9-month prison sentence and a 5-year restraining order. Gadd has never told how the true story ended, but suggested that his stalker did not go to prison, as he didn't want to be responsible for someone that was mentally unwell going to jail. Baby Reindeer came to be after Gadd realized that what he had experienced was impacting his work, so he decided to conflate the two. It is unconfirmed if Fiona Harvey is truly the person that Gadd was stalked by, and he hasn't made a comment on it either. But the constant changes in her side of the story may suggest that someone is not telling the whole truth. Unbelievable. I was contacted by some detectives in Colorado last week. They apprehended a rapist, and when they looked through his stuff, they found a picture of you. Unbelievable follows Marie Adler and her ordeal of being coerced into recanting her assault claims. The show is inspired by a 2015 Pulitzer Prize-winning article. Then, in Colorado years later, authorities uncovered a serial assaulter, which proved Adler's claims true. The show covers both the time in which her ordeal took place and years later when the investigation linked her case to the culprit responsible. Adler went on to sue and got $150,000 in the settlement. When They See Us. When They See Us is a series that tells the story of 5 wrongfully convicted boys, known as the Central Park Five, who were accused of assaulting a woman in 1989. The The conviction was centered around racial profiling due to the ethnicity of the boys. The case is a prominent example of how discrimination and inequality plagued the legal system and media. The show's depiction of prosecutor Linda Fairstein resulted in a defamation lawsuit from her real-life counterpart, who felt it was defamatory of her character. Netflix settled the case by agreeing to donate $1 million to the Innocence Project, while Fairstein received no payout. A disclaimer was also added to the beginning of the show, warning of the dramatization of events featured within the show. The Asunta Case. The Asunta Case depicts the real-life murder of Asunta by her adoptive parents. The case was widely talked about, most likely due to its horrific nature, and the involvement of the victim's own parents. CCTV and forensic analysis led to their eventual conviction, where the courts then decided on their 18 years in prison. In 2020, Asunta's adoptive mother took her own life in her prison cell, but her father remains in incarceration. Triptych.
You're talking about a group of people that went and held a baby and did psychological testing on a 6-month-old baby.
Triptych is inspired by the real-life events that occurred for David Kellman, Bobby Shafran, and Eddie Galland, who were triplets that by chance found each other as adults after being separated at a young age. The 3 boys were adopted by different families, all as part of an experiment by Dr. Peter Neubauer. The experiment was designed to study their development after being placed in different socio-economic backgrounds. The consequences that followed were significant depression and abandonment issues.
A lot of people in this study had dysfunctional childhoods and some mental problems.
They told their story in a documentary from 2018 called 3 Identical Strangers, in which they share their experiences and how the experiment has had a lasting impact on their lives. Thanks for watching this episode of Humanity. Be sure to subscribe for more.